Hello and welcome to another scrapbooking process video. I'm Tracy, also known as Mercy Tiara, and I make scrapbooking process videos and more here on my channel. Today I am scrapbooking this photo of my daughter and our international student at Peggy's Cove, one of the most photographed lighthouses in the world, and this photo doesn't include the lighthouse. But I'm going to fix that by using washi tape to make one of my main embellishments. So stick around if you want to see that. This is the washi tape I'll be using. It is from Cocoa Daisy, and it has this beautiful lighthouse pattern on it. It's like a large illustration, and I don't have many rolls of washi tape that are like this, so I'm very excited to see how I can use it. I am starting with a piece of Vicki Boutin Foundations paper. This is really heavy duty mixed media white cardstock that you can use as a background when you plan to use mixed media. It can take a lot of wear and tear and water, and it's just heavier and better to use for mixed media than regular. It also means that I don't have to put any kind of primer on my paper like gesso, which I often don't use gesso anyways, but this paper will hold up. So I'm having a look at the Fabulous kit from Mercy Tiara Kits, and I am picking out some different pattern papers. At first, I thought I would use this one just because I do really like this paper, and I am doing a diagonal layout. Now, I am in a really big diagonal mood because I inadvertently did 2 layouts in a row with the diagonal. I don't know how I forgot that I had already done this one, but my next layout is also a diagonal. I sat down to my desk and said, I don't feel like I've done a diagonal layout in a while, and I had literally just done one. So memory problems abound here. I have settled on this green pattern paper that has blue flowers on it, so it has this really nice aqua kind of feel to it. I want to go with a watery theme here because it is a coastal photo. Because my paper, the 12 by 12 paper, won't fit in my trimmer, I just folded it on the diagonal, and now I'm just tearing it using my ruler as a guide. As you can see, the ruler didn't guide me all the way there, but I just tore off the last little edge on my own. Now this triangle, I didn't want it to be exactly half the page, so I'm actually going to scooch it up on the page just a wee little bit here. And I grabbed my pencil because I basically want to know where to cut this so that it'll look the way that I want it to look. So I want the biggest chunk on the page to be this large corner in the top, in the top right hand side. And then because this is already cut conveniently on that diagonal, I decided to put another second little corner right here in the bottom left hand side. So we'll have a large chunk of white in the center of this layout. I'm marking my white mixed media paper where the paper will be, and I'm just drawing a line there, and that line will be covered by the paper. So I drew the line a little bit further out than where the edge of the paper actually would be, because I definitely don't want any of that line showing. Usually if you use a pencil and then you do any kind of mixed media on top of it, you won't be able to erase those pencil lines later. So just be aware of that when you're using pencil. Make sure that you're drawing it where it's definitely not going to be seen. Now I have this very, very thin piece of silicone that I've been wondering how I can use in my craft room, so I'm going to use it today just to see how it works. It's what I really like about it is that it's see-through, so I can see the grid lines underneath, and I think that might be handy sometimes, but it doesn't really matter in today's layout, but I think that would be handy in the future. I pulled over my gelato collection. I have a fairly large gelato collection, which I keep in a nail polish holder. It's an acrylic nail polish holder. I do have a video on my channel that shows what I love about it and how I use it in 3 or 4 different locations in my scrap room. At first, I picked a couple of pinks, and I picked a couple of watery blues and greens as well. And I want to mix some of these colors on this acrylic block, but I want to be able to see the colors and how they're going to look on white. So I just grabbed a little a little 4x6 card that fits perfectly underneath of that acrylic block so that it can be a white palette. It's basically a palette for me. So all that I'm doing here is I am putting the gelato on the block, adding a little bit of water, mixing it up with my brush, and I wasn't sure exactly. I thought, why don't I just try the smooshing technique, even though it's not like a piece of plastic, it's this acrylic block. I thought, why not? There's no reason you can't do smooshing with an acrylic block, so this is what I'm doing. This gelato, when you mix it this way, it sometimes leaves these little bits that don't get fully mixed in with the water, but I actually really, really like that look. It's like these hits of extra pigment every here and there, so I'm actually purposely not mixing it entirely. So that's what it looks like up close, and I'm just going to play with a variety of different ways of applying the gelato. So you saw me use direct to paper there and here again, and that just gets a really concentrated amount of the pigment on there, and you'll see me just put that triangle back in place every once in a while in order to get a sense of how it's going to look. I basically want some of these drips and splatters to look like they're coming out from behind the paper. I want it to have a real oceany sprayed kind of a look. In a second here, you will see how this looks up close. So there you go. You can see that there's still those little dots that are not fully mixed in, and that's okay. It gives me a little bit of interest in the splatter on the page. And I'm going to do some more direct to the paper applications. And I'm going to go back and forth between using my little block here and almost like knocking it off of the edge of my block, and then I'm going to use the packaging technique in more of a traditional way here, using some packaging. I'm using both of those blue colors as well as that green. It's like a teal green color as well. And I'm going to stay away from the pinks. I did pull out the pinks. They're off to the left there in the bottom, but I'm actually not going to use them on this particular page. The more I do, the more I realize that I definitely don't want the pink. I just want it to look nice and oceany and watery. So I'm going to use my heat gun here to try to dry everything up. And I really like the look that the water droplets make when they dry. They get like a little bit of a deeper coloring around the outside edges of each of the little pools of color. And I think that's really interesting. I think you will see it, if not at the very end in the photos, I might show a close-up of it once it's all dry. So I dried it a lot with the heat tool, and it looks like I'm going to add some more. I just kind of keep adding and adding until I feel like there's enough there. And it's hard to know whether you've got enough because it's so light. It's hard to know whether it's going to show up once you put the diagonal paper on. You'll see that acrylic block gives me really easy cleanup as well, so you'll be able to see that in just a second. Here I'm mixing some gelato with a little bit less water so that I get a more vivid drip. And I am going to use some of the pink after all. I'm going to use it in a very, very limited way. I don't want my pink and my green to mix together, so I waited until I was pretty much finished with the green and blues. And now I'm going to just mix up a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit of the pink. And I'm going to just sprinkle it in a couple of little places. So in 3 different places, really. One down in the bottom corner and one kind of mid and one at the top as well. So after some quick cleanup, I have my mixed media background here, and I love how it looks with the diagonal corners on it. So I'm ready to glue these down now that I have my mixed media coming out from underneath of it. It'll provide a nice background for whatever ends up extending onto the white paper here. I know that some of my layers are going to extend onto that white paper. I just haven't decided what or how that will look. One of my easiest decisions was to make my mat out of this vivid blue pattern paper. I love this blue paper, and it works so well with the other blues that are in the photo, from Sophie's jeans to the sky to the water. It's just so beautiful and bluey that I couldn't resist using it. And it also gives a little bit of boldness to my layers here. I'm going to have a lot of layers. Here I'm doing a little bit of a cheater method to put this lined paper. It's from the kit. I think most of the things from this layout are from the kit. But I'm trimming things down so that I don't use all of them, because I want to have lots of wonderful scraps to use on another layout. So sometimes I will make it look like a paper extends from one side to another, but it really doesn't. And other times, like this one, I just cut a chunk that's the right size. I love to use my ruler to get a bit of a rough edge on the sides of my layers. And I'm just layering up a whole bunch of different papers here. Some of these you're not going to see much of, but I really love seeing little bits of pretty paper peeking out. Even if you can't quite see it, it just teases you. I love to see the little details when I look close at a page. I do really like this heart paper, but I didn't think it was bold enough for what I wanted. I basically want to add something that is a bold black, and these hearts, because they're outline hearts, they just weren't bold enough. I'm cutting a 2-inch strip here, and I'm going to use my tag punch to tag it up. It was a little loose, so it cut it a little bit unevenly, and it cut it unevenly again. I realized that I need to be turning it around just to make sure that I got that even edge on either side, because the way that I cut it, it was just a little bit smaller than what the punch was wanting. Now, this is something that it turns out I didn't really need to do. I decided to make a reinforcer for this tag out of that lined light pink paper that I love so much. And so I'm just going to widen the hole. The hole that comes with that tag, with the tag punch, is a little bit too small there. So I used my We Are Memory Keepers 1/4 inch punch to make that tag hole the right size that I could use with the We Are Memory Keepers reinforcer punch. So now that I have my little tag all ready to go, it was a little bit fussier than what I was expecting it to be. I didn't expect to have to punch it 3 times to get it right. There's not quite enough hearts here. I realized that this tag is going to be sticking out from the edge of my layout, and there weren't quite enough hearts there, so I just drew a couple more. And I am going to outline this to give it a little bit more presence in my layers. And I was, I'm just going to outline this. Sometimes I outline the reinforcers, and it just gives it this nice bold look. I do like that quite a bit. But then I thought I actually prefer the look of a brad here. So I took one of these adhesive brads from Simple Stories. It's one of the collections that came in the Fabulous kit, and used that on my hole in my tag instead of a actual reinforcer with string or whatever. So that adds a little bit of boldness to this page. The page was just having a real washed away feel. Washed away is very relevant because one could easily get washed away at Peggy's Cove. You have to be careful there to not go on the black rocks if you're ever a tourist here. Checking out our beautiful landscapes, be sure to not go on the black rocks or you will be washed away. But I didn't want this layout to be washed away, so I added the black there. I will add black someplace else too, just to balance it off. Of course, they're both wearing black jackets, so this balances between the photo and the layout as well. I was pretty sure at this point that I wanted to call this layout Sophie and Sofia. And I didn't realize that there's actually an ampersand in the letter stickers that I'm using here. So that's why I picked out the wood veneer ampersand first, but then I realized I actually don't need that. So I'm going to spell them out here using my thicker alignment tool, which is just a really thin, flimsy ruler. You can use a centering ruler too. Those are also often very thin and flimsy, so they're perfect for this. In fact, that's what I'm doing here for my second word. So I'm using my centering ruler. It's pretty much the exact same ruler as the Thicker's alignment tool. It's just marked differently. And I'm just alternating these letters so that I'm picking letters that I'm not going to be repeating the same exact pattern in the same word. I'm playing around with placement here, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to place it right here on the diagonal. I can never resist either doing journaling or titling along the diagonal. It's just such a bold and fun way to set up a page that not using that line is just, it's hard for me to not use the line, to be honest. So, whenever I pull out a diagonal layout, you're probably going to see a diagonal title or some diagonal journaling. Although, maybe we'll have to see if that happens for my next layout, because my next layout is also a diagonal. So you'll have to watch the video to see if I break from tradition on the next one. But no breaking from tradition here. I really like how that title looks, and I'm glad that I was able to use the larger ampersand, because I think either of those wood veneer ampersands was going to be way too small for the look I was going for. So we're going to place this so that that A is just nestled in that little bit of a nook that we get from the tag, where the tag meets the doily. And now I'm thinking about repeating the black, and I thought, well, I could make another tag, or I could even just kind of use this paper over here. If I do, there's not going to be very much showing, so I will want to add lots more hearts here. I'm going to give it a try just to see how it looks, and yeah, it looks okay. Thought about maybe making it look like a tag, so I cut the edges off like that, and then if I do that, I'll want to give it the same treatment with another brad there, and I'm playing with that, and it's just not having the impact that I want it to have, so I abandoned that idea. I'm going to think about another way to maybe get some black on this page up in that other corner. So these are some of the die cuts that came with the Fabulous kit. These are also from Simple Stories. They're from the same collection as the brad. The name of the collection escapes me. But we have this Friday one. It was Good Friday that we took this photo, that we went out to Peggy's Cove. And so I'm just taking that little black label tag, and I made it smaller by just cutting it and then layering it upon itself to make it smaller. And I do like that. It's not exactly a black, it's more of like a very inky blue, but it does the trick as far as balancing the dark black hearts with giving something just dark and solid up at the top there. So now I'm remembering that I had pulled out this washi tape with the lighthouse on it. Now the lighthouse at Peggy's Cove is white and red, just like the lighthouse. I keep saying White House. It's just like the lighthouse at Peggy's Cove. So I'm very pleased with this embellishment that I'm making. So I just attached the washi to some cardstock, and then I fussy cut it out, and now I'm pop dotting it up with some foam adhesive, and that's going to make this be basically my main embellishment on the whole page. Most of this page is just layers and the title, right? So I want to have something here in the corner that is just a little assortment of embellishments, just a little cluster. And so I thought what I might do is use this paper as a background and then cut some type of a frame. So I had a Stampin' Up set of dies that I was looking at, and none of those were big enough. But this set of dies here, I don't even know where these are from, but I had this little shape here that it looks perfect to me. So I'm going to run it through my die cut machine and just see how that looks with the lighthouse. It's the same piece of lined paper that I used elsewhere in the layers. So it's going to give me a little bit of that repetition as well. I'm just going to put those dies back because look at that. It's really perfect. I really love it. So I hope I zoom in a little bit as I do this, because I'm going to outline this little shape that I have, this little label shape. And I just wanted to be not so perfect. So I just grabbed that acrylic block again and one of the same gelato tubes that I was using before. And I'm just basically rubbing some blue onto this label. And then I'm splatting a little bit of splatter as well. And I'm using actually a silicone paintbrush here. It's not a proper paintbrush. I would have gotten better splatter with a proper paintbrush, but I just grabbed the wrong one. So like I said, I do hope that I zoom in because this looks really cute up close. The detail of the extra gelato coming out around the lighthouse looks really cute. It looks a little bit like sky or water spray. This die cut actually includes some embossing, so I just ran my marker along the little lines of the embossing as well. And this is my main little embellishment for this one. Now, I don't love how this looks at the bottom, so I'm just looking for some type of an embellishment that I can use to cover the bottom. This piece here, it says documented. It's from the little set of brads, but it's chipboard, and it was just a little bit too thick, so I pulled off some of the layers, and I'm just going to glue that across the bottom part of this. And that just finishes it off a little bit. I'm using a couple of little pieces of foam adhesive to make that piece of chipboard be the same height as everything else, or the same depth, depending on how you're looking at it. So there you go. This layout still doesn't have quite enough oomph. It just feels like it's kind of washing away on me. So I am going to add some outlining just to give this paper a little bit more presence on the page. So I'm just double outlining all the way around it. I use a Sharpie pen for this. It's my favorite outlining and journaling pen. And then we will do the same treatment with the smaller corner here. I want to put a little secondary cluster in the bottom left-hand corner where that second triangle is. I'm going to have a look at what embellishments came in this kit first. I'm thinking that I'd like to tuck a little something in somewhere, but it turns out I'm not going to. I'm going to put this Friday here, and I want to actually put the word good right above it, and I think I'm going to handwrite the word good. So this will be a little label. I'm putting a bunny here because it was Easter weekend, so it was Good Friday that we went to Peggy's Cove. So the bunny I thought was appropriate. I don't have much opportunity for bunnies to actually be meaningful on my page. I sometimes just use them because they're cute, but in this case, it's also relevant. I'm taking out my Dymo labeler, although it's an off-brand. It's not the actual brand of Dymo, but it's like a Dymo labeler. And I'm going to emboss the word Peggy's and then Cove. And there was a time when I used these embossing labelers all the time on my pages, and I sort of forgot that I had them. I have a small collection of the embossers in a couple of different fonts. And so one of my notes to self is to use those a little bit more often. So I kept this turquoise colored one out on my desk just to remind me to use it. I'm going to run this Dymo label tape on one of those labels that came in the set of die cuts, and then I'll stick the other one just tucking it under the bunny so that we've got Peggy's Cove on there tucked out from the bunny, and it says Friday on the other side of the bunny. And then I'll use my Sharpie pen. First, I'm going to just get the size of the word by writing it in pencil, and then I'm going to just cursively write it right here. Cursively, is that proper? I don't think it is, but anyhow, I'm creating a word here cursively. I'm going to cursively write it, and I love how it looks there. I don't always get my own handwriting on my layouts, and as you can see, I forgot to zoom out, so you didn't get to see me draw those lines, but this is a stencil that I have. I actually made that stencil with my Silhouette machine and sacrificed 2 mats and 1 blade doing so. So if you're going to cut stencil material with your Silhouette, be careful. It took me a whole day to figure out how to get one stencil cut. We have a laser machine now, so we can cut them much, much easier. But back in the day, that is how I got that line stencil. I'm going to add just a couple of extra little puffy stickers every here and there, especially down in this bottom corner. I felt like it needed a little something, so I put one there, and then I put a little brad up in the other corner and a little heart by the lighthouse. I was thinking about doing my journaling right there where I like some extra journaling, or putting a little something right there. I just felt like it needed a little something. So if there wasn't going to be journaling or a title there, it kind of seems like the perfect place for something, right? But I didn't put it there. So I wanted just something to soften that edge a little bit. So I got my scallop border punch. So it's little scallops that have little teeny weeny scallops on them. It's pretty delicate looking. So I thought it was the perfect thing to soften up the edge here. I did not want to use any kind of bold color. I used an off-white paper, and it blends in very much. And that's actually what I really want. So that's the look that I was going for right there. You get to see that little border punch and how the lighthouse looks there as my main embellishment. Now I'm going to show you the actual lighthouse. I did not scrapbook this one. I think this one ended up in my project life, and it might end up on another page, but here we are with the lighthouse on the page one way or another, even if it has to be in washi tape. Now, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, this layout really did feel a little bit too washed out and light for me. I was wanting something a little bit bold, wanted to add some black just to add some contrast to the page. So I have this thread. This is not typical thread. This is upholstery thread. So it is thicker. It makes more impact than regular thread does, but it also stays loopy and circular in a way that regular thread doesn't. And I really love how it looks on my pages. I've been using this upholstery thread for years now, and I just really love it. I just bundle it up like you see, staple it into a little bundle, and then I tuck it different places. And then I'll add some liquid glue where the staple is. Like I hide the staple, and then I just pull up the layer and put some glue where the staple is, just to hold it in place so it doesn't fall out. There, that one looks a little bit loopier now, and once it's in the page protector, it will look okay with that piece coming off the edge. It won't obviously come off the edge when there's a page protector there holding it in place. So I am just using some liquid glue here. This is Art Glitter Designer glue, and just putting it under my layers. It just takes a second for that glue to turn tacky. It doesn't, maybe more than a second, but not much more. And there we go. So I've got just a little bit more contrast and impact on this one. And then I'm going to think that I'm done, but I'm not done. So you will see me come back actually on a different day. I kind of knew that this page needed something different, but I thought, well, let's just sleep on it and see. So I sort of was done, but I had a feeling I'd be back. And lo and behold, I'm gonna be back. So this is me the next day, and I have these little booklets that have dictionary definitions and words on them. And one of them was Atlantic, and I saw that, I was just flipping through my supplies and saw that and figured I need to get this on this page. It's going to take me a little bit of figuring out to decide where to put it, but this is where I'm putting it. You're not going to be able to see the definition, but you'll see the word Atlantic and just the edge of the definition. And then the other thing that I wanted, that I really came back for, was to add some black splatter to this page. Now, I do not mask my photo, and if you don't want to get splatter on your photo, I highly recommend masking your photo. I got quite a few splatters in the sky, as you'll see right here. I kind of don't mind. I think it looks kind of cool. And the black splatter, I think, adds a lot to this page. So what do you guys think? Black splatter or no black splatter? I just like that little tiny bit of it. So here are some photos for you to have a look at. This shows how the layout looks once it's all dry and ready to go into its page protector. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a really great scrappy week.